Has there been any other Doctor episodes that have featured more future companions and Doctors than any other? I don't think there has been. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I am a geek, you are watching Kevin the Geek, and it is time for another New Who Doctor Who review. We are continuing our journey along season 4 of Doctor Who. This one is the second episode, The Fires of Pompeii. Please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you are new. Don't forget to check out all of my Torchwood reviews amongst all of my other various different types of content. I do reactions, I do reviews, I do video gameplays, so lots of stuff on the channel if you are new to it. But like I said, today we're looking at the Fires of Pompeii. Now, with Doctor Who, of course, if you are new to the way that I do Doctor Who reviews, I score 10 categories, a score out of 10, and that gives an overall score. Now, I will normally start talking about like the story and the companions or the Doctor and things like that. Yeah, I kind of want to start on something I normally leave towards the end, and actually the set of this, because the set is fantastic in this episode. It really makes you feel like you are in kind of Italy in those early millennium of that time, and it was a big concern for this episode. It was something that a lot of the ideas for Russell T Davies, he wasn't quite sure whether they would actually have the budget to pull this off. And there was actually another BBC production of a completely different TV show. If I remember correctly, I think it was called Rome. So they basically had a lot of stuff already done, and so they were able to piggyback onto that TV show and use a lot of that same set they already had. So that really helped with the budget, because originally what they were planning to do was a Mark Gatiss written story, which would have been set around World War II. Now, the big concern that Russell T Davies had, being the showrunner, he was worried that it might be a little bit too soon to revisit World War II setting, which I do think is a bit of a strange thing, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't actually remember there being a World War episode, a World War II, sorry, episode, since season 1 of Doctor Who, with the whole Doctor Dances kind of thing, the Empty Child episode. And for me, that feels quite a long enough period of time. And we're talking, 2 full complete series since they had that episode. So for me personally, I don't think that would have been too far along. But they were talking about doing things like to do with Nazis. Well, I mean, I say Nazis. It was something to do with like monsters being on the loose in the Natural History Museum, whilst a Nazi strike force sort of took command or something like that. Obviously, we're talking like a singular kind of paragraph in, of course, the book, The Writer's Tale. So it would have been something that, I think it could have worked, particularly with the Mark Gatiss one, because I think he quite likes, those historical episodes, particularly the sort of World War kind of era kind of history pieces. So I think it could have worked, but ultimately, I'm so glad that they didn't, because this episode, Fires of Pompeii, was mind-blowingly good. And it's an episode that I always remember being a great episode. But until I've kind of been scoring a lot of these episodes and kind of seeing how I've kind of scored them, and maybe some episodes, particularly in like series 1, I've maybe possibly done them a little bit too harshly. But there's just something about this episode that I scored it right before recording this review, and I'm shocked kind of how high up it really is. But at the same time, I shouldn't be really shocked because everything seems to come together for this episode. The Doctor is fantastic. Donna especially is amazing in this. The supporting cast are very, very solid in this episode. Okay, yeah, you could say the villains are not especially great, but then if you think back to the Dalek episode, for example, from season 1, the Dalek in that was brilliant. But at the same time, I would say that um, the rest of it and the supporting cast and everything, they maybe weren't quite as good. So there's always a balance to be had. Overall, I think this is a fantastic episode. The music especially is something that I love. And if you've seen any of my reviews before, you will know that for me, the music is a crucial component of an episode.
Expect them to be looming by now. Where is everything? Try this way.
Like that kind of music there with, you have all the stuff with the sibling sisterhood and the auras and stuff. It's just something that's so haunting and mystical. It really gives you a sense of unease. You don't quite know what was kind of happening with this, but music is spot on. Costumes, I would say, are pretty good. Now, you've always got to take a little bit of artistic licensing because, of course, we don't really have historical, accurate depictions of what the the outfits worn in Pompeii and ancient Rome and things. We don't really know what they absolutely would have been and what they would have felt and looked like. Like you see Donna's one that she wears, the sort of purple toga type of thing, and of course it's a very modern style thing because it does show a little bit of kind of cleavage to an extent, like not a lot, which, I mean, my personal opinion of my limited knowledge of historical costuming, to me, I would think that maybe they would be a little bit more conservative, the women of that kind of era. And so Donna's outfit, I don't think it necessarily would have been something that she would have been able to get from there. Maybe it's something that she's got from the Doctor's wardrobe in the TARDIS. Maybe it's something they got in there. I don't know. I'm obviously just kind of brainstorming here a little bit. I like to overanalyze and overthink some of these things at times. But of course, Peter Capaldi, the future Doctor, is in this episode, and also Karen Gillan is in this, the next companion, following Donna with, of course, Matt Smith's Doctor, which we will, of course, get to that in due course in a few months' time. But both of them had great little roles there. Karen Gillan, it was a very simple, understated thing. She could very easily never been in Doctor Who again, and she would have just been another pretty good supporting cast. But Peter Capaldi was really strong. He didn't use his really thick Scottish accent, which I think helped. It helped to differentiate him enough from from the Doctor later down the line, which I really do appreciate. But you also, of course, do see Peter Capaldi crop up in Torchwood later down the line. And when I get to him in that point, I will talk a little bit more about the connection, because at that point, of course, he wasn't going to be the Doctor, but there was still a bit of a theory as to why you had a character in ancient Rome that looked like Peter Capaldi, and then you have a character in 21st century London who looked like Peter Capaldi. And there is an interesting theory which I really do like, but of course that I will deal with that when it comes that time in Torchwood. But for right now, this episode, this story, everything just really came together, and I absolutely loved it.
You're kidding. You're not telling me the TARDIS is gone.
Okay.
Where is it then?
You told me not to tell you.
Oi, don't get clever in Latin.
Donna is on amazingly top form in this, particularly her dynamic with David Tennant. Now, I kind of touched on it last episode out, that because you had the sort of Christmas episode, you didn't really need to introduce the pair of them. It made things a little bit easier to seamlessly link into it. But I tell you what, the dynamic between David Tennant and Catherine Tate in this episode, being technically only their third episode together, you could argue that they have got a better chemistry between a doctor and the companion than some doctors and companions had across their entirety of their run. And this is only by the third episode in. So that really brings home, I think, the chemistry between the two actors. Because, of course, they've got to work together and they would have done a lot of stuff together. You've got the way that the characters are written, both singularly and when they're together. That is fantastic. And it's all these different things that just come together to create something really, truly amazing. Now, I kind of mentioned it in the Christmas episode, The Voyage of the Damned, that there had been a plan by Russell T Davies, when he was writing that character, for all intents and purposes, for her to be the next companion and for her to have to pass the companion test. And she would do something that ultimately meant that she failed that test, and that's why she ended up not going with the doctor. Of course, in the end, they kind of rewrote it, so they didn't really use that. But here in this episode, they've actually done that, but actually have Donna be accepted by the doctor. And he says that right towards the episode, after you've had the whole situation where Donna's pleading and begging for the doctor just to save someone. Doesn't have to be everybody, just save somebody.
Just someone. Please. Not the whole town. Just save someone.
And of course, she wears him down and he does it. And then right afterwards...
You were right. Sometimes I need someone. Welcome aboard.
So that is just like one little line that could be very easily thrown away. But when you think about it and you think about the context in which it's being used, it is a very powerful line. It is showing that Donna really has been accepted by the doctor. Now, Catherine Tate, she is very known for her comedy skills. She's a very good comedian. But I don't think people give comedic actors the respect that they are due for performing really deep and emotional roles. Now, if you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen my reviews of Ted Lasso, you have an actor called Nick Mohammed, who, again, is known for his stand-up and his comedy kind of things. And he had a very, very poignant arc where he got to show off his emotional acting range. And I really feel that Catherine Tate straight away is being asked to do that. Because she had it a little bit in her original outing in The Runaway Bride. But last episode out, this episode, and in particular the next episode as well, you really do get to see her emotional acting. And she is bloody brilliant at it. And it's no wonder why so many people consider Donna to be one of the best ever companions of Doctor Who. She is absolutely amazing. Now, the dialogue across this entirety of this episode is truly on top form as well. And this is the kind of category when I come to score it that typically I'll normally score sort of mid to lower end range, because there's only so much you can really say in it. But the way that this was written is brilliant, and it ties in with the story so well. I mean, when you talk about doing a Pompeii episode, you kind of know what you're going to get out of it. You know, you're going to have Pompeii blow up. You know, there's no getting away from it. It's such a well-known historical event. But to throw it on its head and to give you a story where, in essence, Pompeii never is going to erupt unless you have this horrible, horrible situation where the Doctor has to choose between either destroying Pompeii or destroying the world. And he is the one who has to be the person to actually commit the atrocity and, in essence, become responsible for the deaths of about 20,000 people. Of course, he's doing so at the greater good of saving the entirety of the planet. But the way that that scene was written between Donna and the Doctor in that sort of, escape pod thing was just brilliant.
But you can change it back.
I can invert the system, set off the volcano and blow them up, yes, but that's the choice, Donna. It's Pompeii or the world.
Oh my God.
If Pompeii is destroyed, then it's not just history. It's me. I make it happen.
So, yeah, another truly standout episode. And of course, I now have to score it. Now, I mentioned it right at the start of the video. This is something what I do with every Doctor Who review. I score 10 categories, a score out of 10 to give an overall score out of 100. So, let's see what my scores are for the Fires of Pompeii. And so, the scores for this episode are 82 marks out of 100, which gives it an A-rated episode. What are your thoughts for the Fires of Pompeii? As you can tell, I loved it. You may be one of those people that I see who don't particularly like it. Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Check out all of my other content. I'm actually going away next week, so the fingers crossed at the moment. I am going to still be able to record all of my episodes for next week so that they still come out, even though I'm going away on a little trip to Portugal. But if I don't, then of course I will be back with my Torchwood and my Doctor Who reviews the week after. Until next time, my name's Kevin. I'm a geek, and you've been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.